wrong side of the pond. He is DJ Schweitzer. I am Jeremy Lands. It's midnight. We picked the wrong night to try to record a podcast. We thought, hey, low tide Thursday. We'll wait so we can riff on Chelsea Spurs. That CBA with the MLS. Something might be happening with that. Other than that, we just kind of our normal thing. We'll just get together and do our podcast.
No. Things as they tend to do when you put off tasks piled up on us a little bit, and our decision to delay things has smacked us in the face with basically a gigantic nuclear bomb of information being dropped on us right before this podcast happened. And not only was it a lot of info, but it was a lot of info that hit literally like the bomb. We are at ground zero of where that bomb landed.
Yeah. It was a FC Cincinnati related newsgasm that unfolded as we were originally getting ready to crack the mics and get this podcast started. So we'll get into all of that. We thought, we knew we were going to have domestic news talk about tonight. We thought it would be a decision either made or not made on the CBA, as the deadline was originally supposed to be tonight. The can got kicked down to tomorrow. It sounds like something's been agreed upon. Some sort of resolution will be announced tomorrow.
Maybe tonight's news reverberates in a way that will impact tomorrow's news with the CBA. Yeah. So we've not spent a lot of time talking about the CBA. So to compress this really quickly, if you're not familiar with what's going on, MLS and the players union that represents all the players in Major League Soccer are currently in dispute over the extension of the current modified CBA that the league is operating under, that was basically agreed to last year when COVID came through and wiped out everything in the world. And the owners really want to push this agreement and the current agreement that is operating modified underneath through the end of the World Cup. So that way they can take advantage of all the World Cup rights that some Soccer United marketing also links together with Major League Soccer's deal. Understandably so, because the World Cup is literally like one of the biggest properties that exists on TV. They want that money just the same as the players want to leverage that money, and the players don't want to make that agreement. They don't want to extend it that far. The original agreement was not made to go so far, and they've really been pushing for this. And the deadline that was supposed to expire tonight, ultimately was an extension from one that was supposed to expire last week. And by the time this publishes, in all likelihood, we should have some sort of news on that front, which would have made whatever we talked about here probably somewhat oblivious anyway.
Right.
Tonight just went, it made everything a lot crazier. So I should we even go to fantasy now? I feel like this is when we normally do this. Should we just pigeonhole this in right now?
Let's just do it. Let's just do it, because it's consumed our evening, so it's kind of hard to not open with this.
Yes.
And the whole CBA being tonight and then this news happening, like nothing says, hey, we're broke, like the MLS owners, or at least an ownership group, spending just absurd amounts of money right now.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why the CBA and the owners want to take advantage of the World Cup revenues that will come if they extend it beyond that point is because they want to recoup some of the losses that they claim they suffered throughout the pandemic. And no doubt they did suffer some losses and had to pay out enormous wages without any ticket revenue in a league that's very dependent on ticket revenue. Yep. So I'm not saying they didn't experience losses, but you have to put it in the context of these are billionaires.
Right.
This is one portion of their multitudes of business portfolios, and not only are none of them probably hurting, but all of them probably made money while the rest of us, including some of their players, missed out on money during this whole pandemic. So it's a tough pill to swallow. MLS has always been in a bad PR position when it came to this particular extension request on the CBA. And when you have a team that's out there dropping gajillions of dollars literally the night before the CBA is supposed to be signed, it is going to raise some eyebrows in the player union office, I would imagine, and maybe get some hands rubbing together, going, ooh, maybe we can squeeze them for a little bit extra. Thanks, Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, FC Cincinnati possibly is our spending right now conservatively 20 to like 25 million.
Yeah.
In transfer fees, just right now.
Just in transfer fees. So, so let's hit fantasy real quick so we can actually get into the news that no one doesn't want to hear about. Tyler Kelly's Ole Can't Drive, 7th show in a row, sitting on top of the table. Congrats to him. I moved 0 places. I'm at 43rd. You fell 4 places again to 85th. There's your fantasy update. Let's get into the news that is dominating the current cycle in our lives and in Major League Soccer. And frankly, when the rest of the world is hitting the front pages tomorrow morning, this is going to have some reverberations there as well. FC Cincinnati literally shocked the world tonight a little bit with the signings that they made. And I, for once, don't feel like that's a little bit of an exaggeration.
No. I mean, you had national MLS pundits that are literally picking their jaw off the ground on Twitter tonight. Just completely floored that it seems to have kind of come out of thin air, or at least come together pretty quickly, where there wasn't a whole lot of rumored, confirmed rumors over the past week or so. We had been hearing that they were trying to make some moves, and we were hoping that they were trying to make some moves, as they were a club that had really not done much at this point, and for someone that had once again retained the wooden spoon, they needed to do the most out of everybody. So there was a lot of angst and this club is not doing anything this offseason. This is a disaster. We're just dragging on. It's already we're already into February and nothing's happening. And you could really feel the fan base here in Cincinnati just kind of come to a breaking point with the lack of movement happening with the club this offseason.
For sure. I think you hinted at this a little bit. The club needed to do something to get the fans excited, right? A signing that would get you motivated and up off your seat. And when the Brenner news of the first of the 2 signings that was announced tonight came out, and I say announced, it didn't actually, it's not been officially, none of the things we're talking about are official yet.
Right.
But
the Brenner one at least has been confirmed by basically everybody at this point.
Yeah. So Brenner is a 21-year-old striker from Sao Paulo in Brazil. He had a really good season last year, coming off a year where he's attracted some interest from Europe. He is a goal scorer, a smaller, more diminutive player that kind of plays between the lines a little bit, is a lot more along the lines of a Joseph Martinez or maybe a Federico Higuain when he was playing in a more advanced role for the Crew. But if you think about it in that light, he's that type of creative as well as a goal scoring type of player. That alone was huge news, and there's talk of potentially the fee being in the neighborhood of $13 to $15 million, depending on how add-ons potentially work out. That's a huge outlay for a player who's frankly a pretty bright prospect coming from a pretty big club in Brazil. That is the type of move on its own that can get people really excited. So I think when that first broke, it was enough right there to get things moving. And that then a second bit of news broke, and it was like
probably the more shocking one.
Yeah, for sure. So the second news is that FC Cincinnati, I tweeted about this, right? Like, great, FC Cincinnati went out and got themselves a good forward, something they needed, something that the fan base needed, but they got to get someone. They got to get someone to produce for them because forwards can't do it on their own, and that's been
him that ball.
Yeah, and that's been FC Cincinnati's crutch. They've never had a proper 10 to run the offense for them. Well, they went and did that, and the colleagues over at CST, Cincinnati Soccer Talk, they broke the news that Pity Martinez, formerly of Atlanta United, is going to be making his way potentially and most likely over here to FC Cincinnati if they can work out the allocation order situation that they're going to have to deal with in order to make that move work.
Basically, they have to compensate Austin.
Yeah, because, and let's quickly explain why that is. Allocation order is this mechanism where players who have either played for the U.S. men's national team or have previously played in the league who were offered a contract by their previous team before they left and went somewhere else, they are subject to coming through this allocation order. And that's based off of where you finish in the league table, yada, yada, yada. Currently, that top spot is held by Austin FC, the expansion team. Formerly, that was the Crew, if you really want to get technical. But if they're amenable to it, which I'm sure they're going to work out some sort of deal to make that happen, Pity Martinez is going to be making his way back here. Now, CST confirmed this. I have separately confirmed this with multiple contacts from around the league that is indeed looking to be the case. We've also seen our colleague Laurel Failer confirm that as well. So it seems incredibly likely that both of these signings are going to transpire. And I mean, these are two signings that instantly put FC Cincinnati on the map, assuming they get all the other right pieces into place. But if you start to look at some of the pieces that they acquired towards the end of last season, it's looking a much prettier picture in Cincinnati starting 11 wise than you could have even possibly have imagined a month ago, 2 months ago, even a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, what they still, I would say, what the real need still left is what a center back replacement, right?
Yeah, there's a bit of a gaping hole back there with the departure of Kendall Waston. They, of course, still have a number of returning players in that role as well, but they need a marquee starting center back. That's really the role they're missing back there, and something they've desperately needed as well. There's also been talk of needing some additional help out on the wings. That would certainly help them, especially the way I think they're going to need to play with a player like Brenner up top. So I think this leaves them in a pretty good position. There are a lot of ifs to answer, and a lot of things have to work out for these things to all click. But this is ambition on a scale that we've really not seen from FC Cincinnati before. And
right. And to be fair, we were kind of promised this, right? Like, there was kind of this, I don't think directly said, but kind of known thing that, like, hey, until we've kind of got this stadium thing sorted out, like, we can't really just go, like, burning money.
Right? Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? I think that's an understandable position. It's one that makes financial sense at a bare minimum. I think what makes it difficult is the bill of goods wasn't necessarily always sold as such, right? I think if it was delivered differently, like, hey, we're gonna be bad for a couple of years, but we're gonna aim for being good that third year. And if that's what transpired, I think people would be like, hey, we were promised this. Let's see what happens here. That that heaps some extra pressure on them now, but that doesn't undo the fact that this ambition is like fantastic and what the fans have been asking for, needing. And you think of fantastical situations like this and being like, oh, this all happened to my team. And it is like, we were DMing about this earlier, and like, and you talked about the same thing with National Raiders. Jaws being on the floor is the accurate perception of both of these bits of news, particularly the second one, but both of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, especially given the situation with Pity Martinez, where it sounds like he is either not being paid on time, or they're like behind on wages, or they're just straight up not paying him there in Saudi Arabia. That looks like, because that has become this like untenable situation with this club that apparently it has a cash flow issue. FC Cincinnati possibly comes in and just, I mean, this could be the steal of the year to just be able to pull this move off, get him in there. A lot of people, I think, are going to be like, well, you know, he didn't really work out at Atlanta. Like, yeah, he was still like the best player in South America. In 2018, and like, I'm pretty sure, given, you know, the right situation, he can definitely like be an absolute star.
I mean, look, you don't end up being the South American Player of the Year and be a slouch, right? And he was certainly a player with clout ahead of that time as well. So, look, even if he's a bust and as bad, and I'm doing air quotes that no one can see, he's as bad as he was in Atlanta, that seems like an upgrade over literally everyone we've ever had playing a 10-ish role at FC Cincinnati. So
yeah, his bad Atlanta production would put him, we'd be building a statue for that here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cause for celebration for a fan base that hasn't had a lot of opportunities to celebrate. And like, I'll be honest, I look at the roster a little bit now and I go, okay, like, okay, yeah. And I don't know that I've ever felt that way since they've made the jump to MLS. The last time I really felt that way was when you looked at that last team that they constructed in in USL. And you went like, that's a team that can compete at this level. And I'm starting to see the same type of thing put together with this current roster. Now, again, like, everyone has to hit the ground running, and they have to find their feet and gel quickly in an environment that's complicated. And,
you
know, if it's going to be a lot of new pieces with lots of ego to insert into an equation. Like, there's not like a Brazilian community here that's going to open its arms and welcome Brenner to it, you know. And I say that, and we'll probably get like the one Brazilian person that listens to the show from Cincinnati that'll chime in and be like, oh, there's a million of us. But like, it's going to be tough to get these new people into new situations in Cincinnati, Ohio. But if they can make it work, this is a team that has potential to be very good in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, no, they do, and it's exciting. I mean, 24 hours ago, I would say exciting would not be how I would describe how I felt about FC Cincinnati in 2021. I was excited in the fact that, like, I kind of had hit. I tweeted about this yesterday. Like, I had hit the point in like the winter where I'm just like, I need MLS to start. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready to have that domestic soccer back in my life.
It might have something to do with both our European teams being absolute garbage lately.
I mean, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, my team hasn't let up a goal in 3 matches.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, no, I was ready for things to happen, but as far as like optimism of FC Cincinnati being a fun watch, no, not until literally like an hour ago. And remember, this week started off with, I think it was at the beginning of this week or maybe the end of last week. I don't know, everything kind of blurs together. Drive Nightcamp has this conference call with the media where he went ahead and listed out like this big laundry list of what the club still was chasing. And like it was as I pointed out, like that's a sizable list. Like they wanted, hey, we need a number 9, we need a number 10, we need a winger, we need a center back. Like, oh, so like a new spine. Like those are some big chips that you're chasing there. And when it was said by him then and pushed out there in the media, I think a lot of us was like, hey, we kind of already know you've swung and missed at a few. B, that's a lot of things you need to get done between now and March, I guess. And C, like that, like those are all like very key positions that like we can't get wrong.
No, like, and that's what makes signings like these both so exciting and so dangerous, right? Like if they go great, it's great. If they go bad, it really like the team collapses around it. And I'm really not trying to poo-poo this because these are like these are the best footballers that have ever called Cincinnati home. Like I have literally no question in saying something like that. And it just because it's exciting doesn't mean that you don't want to be aware of the risk that's involved with it. So I'm tentatively optimistic about the direction that this points the club. And but to your point, like there's still some outstanding pieces that are missing in this equation, and getting in a marquee center back is undoubtedly one of the most critical ones of them. They've got some work that's left to do, but this is cause for optimism. And I'll be the first to admit, like I was skeptical, and I voiced that skepticism on this space. I voiced it on Twitter. This morning, I was voicing it over the body language that Locadia was showing in his initial press conference, and we haven't even really mentioned his name at all so far. Because the day started off in speculation that he's leaving, and
which is still possibly and probably the case.
Yeah, almost undoubtedly. Now, if they somehow force him or are able to keep him around in a way where it's productive for the team, I don't think that would be a bad thing either. Like I think this changes. Like if I were him, I'd be looking at the rest of the team and going, Can I hang and play with these guys? Like these are the types of guys I was wanting to play with when I first came here. So I don't know. I mean, I think this changes the dynamic a little bit, and having a name like Jaap Stam does not hurt in this equation. Now,
right.
Let's talk about where the pressure really ends up heaping in this type of situation, right? The players are going to shoulder some of this, but Stam's being given the tools now. Like I think that's something that really the microscope needs to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Gerard and Jeff Birding have delivered on the promise, at least in part so far. Have delivered on what they said they were going to put out for this team. Now Jaap is going to have to show he's got what it takes, and I'll be the first to admit again that like he's not got me convinced, but now that he has some tools, he maybe can do some magic and push me over the edge. And I'm not the one who has to be convinced, right? Like there are other people that are paying his paycheck, and other people get paid more than me to evaluate how good he is at his job. But
this is the Lampard situation, right? This is, hey, we've just spent money on these big players. Pressure's on you to make it figure it out, make it work.
For sure.
Hopefully it goes better than that one.
It's so far it's working out for you guys, right?
I mean, it is now-ish. Are we ready to move on to that? Is there anything more with FC Cincinnati? I guess there's still the question of like, okay, so Locadia in our probably out, probably because of the situation with his loan deal expiring in the summer, the league not starting till April. So you're really only going to have him for like 2.5 months. There's reason to believe that the club probably is just like going to probably let it go, to let him return to Brighton and sort himself out a new place to play. And probably doing him the service of letting that happen sooner than later, so he can actually get on somewhere and actually, play the second half of the European season.
Right.
And then we kind of know that Brenner is going to be a young DP. Well, this club has a young DP. It's Alan Cruz, who has found himself out of favor with most of the managers we've had over the past year or so, in both Jans and now Yap have both not really used him. And he's kind of the odd man out in this equation, and he's taking up that young DP spot. He's taken up a good bit of wages. Is it logical that that's the guy they're trying to move at this point?
I think he's the most likely piece to go. There was talk this week of Frankie Amaya being shopped around potentially.
Right. That's kind of like the other way around. That Frankie Amaya, all of a sudden there were offers, people inquiring about Frankie,
right?
As much as he was not really shopped.
Yeah. And I think that just kind of goes to show that there's some fluidity to these situations, and sometimes you might think, like, hey, if I'm going to bring in this type of player, like I might need to move this player out in order to make the dynamics of all of this work. So I'm not frankly all that surprised. I think it's a bit natural. But he is probably the guy that if you were looking for movement to happen, they probably have one too many players in that type of role. Then they.
Where else would you play him? Where else would you play him at this point, right?
Look, we've seen Alan Cruz play in a wide advanced position in several occasions.
That'd really be his only option at this point, right? And I don't think that's really ever worked.
Not very often. I mean, we've seen it on multiple occasions. He's better at kind of driving from deeper positions in midfield, and I just don't know that he's gonna find space in this FC Cincinnati midfield, given what they've now acquired and the way that they're probably going to need to play. Maybe we're all wrong on that situation, and maybe they've got some fantastical plan for him. But I wouldn't be shocked if that's a player that we would see move on, or at least transition into a different role than he's currently in.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, they're basically going to have to buy him down out of that young DP spot, right?
Yeah. You would imagine so. And I can't imagine they'd want to burn a full DP position on him, given the dynamics of what they're currently putting together. So
right, given the dynamics that he doesn't really have a true role right now.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like something you should be burning for on an Alan Cruz at the moment.
I mean, probably not, but we've made worse choices. All right, let's move. Let's leave stateside. Let's go across the pond.
No, I don't want
to. We got to go from one chaos to the other. The FC Cincinnati chaos that we've dealt with tonight to the chaos that continues at the top of the Premier League table, as out of nowhere, really, if you think about it, Manchester City has just rolled on in to first place and have a chance to, by the time we next pod, have a pretty decent gap.
You blink for a second and there they are, right back where they normally are, right?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I went and looked at their evolution over the last couple months. So let's go all the way back to match day 8, back right before Thanksgiving. They lose to Spurs, and at that point they were in 10th. That put them in 10th place. They have not lost since then. They have not lost a match since then.
Things have gone slightly different for Spurs since that point.
Yeah, it's two paths, right?
Diverge in some sort of wood, and it's been great path for Man City to have followed.
Yeah.
Spurs took the other, and it was garbage.
So yeah, the City resurgence has been a little crazy, and it's wild to see, like, amidst this chaos, and we're talking about this team and Liverpool trying to fight through their problems, and Manchester United all of a sudden like finding their form, and they've found themselves a few times here in the last couple of weeks at or right at the top. And then now we look at with a game in hand, 3 points ahead of United in second, have a chance to expand that. Let's just go ahead and assume they win that match. So it's really like a 6-point lead that they currently have. And they still have a chance to move on. And they have to make some real distance this weekend because they're going to play Liverpool. And this could be one of those key matches that could really help decide the way this title race shakes out here at the end. I mean, if they go out and just roll Liverpool, which seems possible, Liverpool has once again shown themselves to be a bit shaky at the moment due to just a slew of injuries. They could potentially find themselves ostensibly like 9 points clear of, over Liverpool. They're basically already at like a 10-point gap on Liverpool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be huge for them.
Yeah.
I was trying to look back through prior episodes to see how far back it was when we were talking about like what my temp check was on Spurs title chances, and they're in 8th now. They're in 8th.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about that then, City were in like 10th or 12th or something stupid.
I think they went like as low as like 15th, I think was their.
Yeah, and United were in the bottom half of the table too. And now both of them are on top of the table. Liverpool are sitting 4th. They've been flying high for long stretches of the season.
Right.
Chelsea, who also topped the table for a stretch, they find themselves in 6th. Everton find themselves in 7th.
We just climbed back to 6th. We were in 10th like 4 days ago.
Yeah. Everton, who topped the table for like the first 6 weeks of the season, they're floating in 7th after having been back all the way up to 3rd and 2nd like a week or two ago. It's literally nuts. And we've been talking about this in different flavors on like many episodes in a row now. But it's a chaos that like the eye of the storm never stops changing. And I look at City and United up there now, and you're like, oh man, like these two, they'll probably end up gonna end up running away with it. Like, damn it. But it feels just as likely that West Ham, who are floating in 5th place and are 9 points off the top of the table right now, why the hell wouldn't they be at the top of the table by the time we're talking about this?
Right.
Again, like in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, especially you look at the trends of just where teams are going. West Ham looking decent. But I mean, they did Liverpool. Liverpool loses to Brighton this midweek. Leicester City, draws with Everton and then gets like just boat raced by Leeds. United loses to Sheffield United. Hey, you got your win. You beat United. You beat Manchester United. But then United goes on and then has a stinker with Arsenal. So, I mean, nobody's running away with it except for all of a sudden you just have City in the background just kind of just slinking away.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a team that seems likely to survive this chaos, it's probably City and their gargantuan squad with a gajillion amazing attacking players and midfielders. And you go, yeah, their back line's a little thin, but it's nowhere near as thin as like, Liverpool's is right now, or Spurs is right now, or
Liverpool's back line was so thin that they signed a dude from Preston on deadline day.
Really dipping into the league there a little bit to find yourself some sort of an answer.
Which tells you two things. They were desperate, and they didn't have a whole lot of money to spend on it.
Interesting. It's really fun. Like, I wish I didn't have a pony in the race. Like, it's one of those few times where I'm like, I wish I was a fan of, like, Crystal Palace. So I could, like, know that my team is probably safe. But I can just watch all the chaos and unfold ahead of me and enjoyment, right? Like, yeah, whatever. But having a team that's wrapped up in this, it's terrible. Like, you see some teams faltering, and you're like, there's our chance to take advantage of this, and then you don't, and you find yourself in a really terrible spot in no time quick, and just the fluctuations we're seeing have made it so topsy and turvy. Like, I found this to be very frustrating in a way that I didn't expect myself to find it frustrating, and my team's performances are not helping that equation.
Would you like to talk about today's performance?
No, but yes.
Spurs 0, Chelsea 1. As Chelsea gets an important victory for them.
Mm-hmm.
Show that Tuchel has come in and stabilized things. They still need to figure out how to score goals with their attacking players from open play. Still got to work on that part. But they look good. They've had clean sheets. That first half, the way that Chelsea was moving the ball in that first half, granted, it was because Spurs just decided to just sit back and just allow Chelsea to just control the ball and just have possession. But they were moving the ball around it was so fun to see Chelsea moving that fluid and not a whole lot of sloppy mistakes happening. It was delightful.
You never thought you'd get over Frank so quick, did you?
I mean, yeah, when he takes that Bournemouth gig, we'll be good, right?
Yeah, it seems likely. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was begrudgingly difficult to admit that Chelsea were looking so good. You guys did dominate the first half, and it was in part because it seemed like Spurs just not only did they sit in, but they just seemed kind of sure, we have to come out today. And you're getting distinct feelings of team quitting on manager feelings at the moment. I watched that first half, and it's we're missing Kane. Son's looking ragged at this point. We brought in Gareth Bale.
Lo Celso is out too, right? There's some other guys out, right?
Yeah, I mean, Spurs are. Yeah, Lo Celso's out. Our new left back, whose name is blanking on me at the moment, is out as well. It's just it looks a team completely different than the one that was topping the table a couple weeks ago, and it's not one of those situations where you're like, oh, we can find our form again soon. Like, my hope of Spurs finding their form again soon is very thin, and it's amazing how quickly the tides can turn sometimes within a squad, and sometimes that's injuries. Sometimes I think it's the way that Mourinho asked teams to play. It's exhausting to play the way that he asked teams to play. If you've ever been on a team that was significantly worse than another team and had to defend the whole time, it doesn't matter the sport. If you're playing like a head-to-head sport like that, it is exhausting to be on defense the whole time. It requires concentration, and that burns through you quickly. And I don't know. It's a tough thing to watch at the moment. And this game today, I was ready to turn it off at halftime. Again, it's not very often that I'm like, I can't suffer through another 45 minutes of this. But it was a tough choice to sit through that second half, and I regret every minute of it. You
guys just got to hold it together for one more match, though, right? I mean, you You are in a cup final. It's not till like April for some dumb reason. All you got to, I mean, you guys just have to somehow just not completely melt down by the time you play in that final. That's kind of the goal.
Can you remind me again who we're playing in that cup final?
City.
Yeah. It's Manchester City.
That's fine. Nah, yeah. I mean, you can do it. I believe in you guys.
Sure we can. My faith is high.
Kane should be back by then, right? Hopefully, maybe. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? It's a pandemic, man. Hopefully they all get coronavirus.
Hey, that's one way to look at it. Were there other matches you wanted to hit on? Did you want to talk Liverpool Spurs too, or skip that one, or what are you vibing on?
I'm good on that one too. We can sail on by that. I think our
what about Spurs Brighton?
Nah, I'd also like to skip that match.
Okay, all right, we'll skip that one too.
It's been a really not fun stretch in Tottenham land lately.
Yeah, I would imagine. Like I watched it today at work with my coworker Andrew, who's a big Spurs supporter, and he was actually like, I kind of want us to lose badly, so that like Mourinho just gets one step closer to getting sacked, and we can be done with this nonsense.
I tweeted this out like he's supposed to deliver the trophy before the madness, and
right.
We've reached the madness stage first, and I'm very annoyed by that.
You guys are going out of sequence. You gotta not do that.
Frustrating.
Do you have anything else? Winners and wankers? Are we there? I don't even know.
I think so. I think so. I keep checking Twitter trying to see if there's something else we've missed while we've decided to turn the mics on tonight, and I think so far that's okay.
No other crazy deals. FC Cincinnati didn't like pip Hulk from China or something like that.
Not that I'm aware of yet, and I've not asked, but I certainly...
They didn't offer a contract to Diego Costa, who's just kind of sitting somewhere right now waiting for something.
Yeah, I thought there was hot talk for a minute that he was going to end up in London, but
West Ham should have found a way to get that one done.
Disappointed for them, for sure, and for all of us, for that matter.
Lindegaard up top, that'd been great. They'd be good.
Yeah,
I'd actually probably put money on them getting like a Champions League spot at that point.
Yeah, right.
All right, winners and wankers. Let's do it.
All right. Let's start with your low light of the week.
My low light of the week, my wanker, is going to the footballing world. The football world, as it was pointed out by Chelsea head coach of the women's team, Emma Hayes, in her blowtorch of a press conference where she basically laid it out there like, guys, I know you think that I should feel this way, but taking the Wimbledon gig just because it's a men's team is not a step up. I'm the manager of one of the biggest women's clubs that's in continental competitions every year, winning titles, winning trophies every year, with some of the best players in the world on the women's game every year are with that club. Why would you think that just because it's a men's side that I'd want to go take a League One job?
Amazing pick for that. And it's not just Emma that we've heard say this. Like, we've heard this from numerous other women's coaches. It's a hard perception to break. And on initial offer, you're kind of like, that would be cool. Like, hell yeah. Like, I'd love to see Emma Hayes coaching a men's team. And deep down, I do. Like, I do want to see that happen. And to Emma's point, it doesn't have to be a freaking AFC Wimbledon, and no disrespect to them, but she's Emma Hayes. Like, she's coached the English national team, and like, literally, like, she deserves to coach a big club. And we're never, I mean, like, we're so far away from seeing a
Right.
Premier League side hire a woman. Like, it's absurd to even talk about because you know how unrealistic it is to happen. Not that it shouldn't, but like that's the point that she's drawing is like, if I'm going to take another gig.
Sadly, we're not there yet.
Yeah, like I'm going to take a gig with Chelsea's men's team, for Christ's sake. And we've seen this even in MLS recently. Reportedly, DC United were interested in Jill Ellis. Now she's also now reportedly landed a gig at Sacramento, where she's going to help them also with their NWSL team. It's unclear if that also covers their soon-to-be MLS team or not. But like, these are women who've coached World Cup winning sides. Like, they should be getting consideration for top gigs regardless of the gender. And it's a great point.
Yeah, you're right. Like when I first heard the whole thing, like how she was rumored for the Wimbledon gig, I'd be like, oh, that'd be cool to happen. And then you think about it and you go, wait a minute. Again, no offense to AFC Wimbledon, but they're a League One side owned by a guy that one of their main owners, or one of their owners, is a guy that writes young adult fiction. Not exactly the same bar as Chelsea's women's side that is playing in European competition, and every member on the team plays for their national team.
Yeah, slightly different bar. Excellent wanker.
Your wanker.
I'm giving my wanker to both EA Sports, Electronic Arts, and Google Stadia for finally announcing that FIFA 21 is going to make its way to the platform. I've been stoked about this. I have Stadia.
You're the one guy that has Stadia.
There's more of us than you would think now. But anyway,
dozens.
Yeah, there's dozens of us now. But I've been really stoked about the prospects of FIFA. They've been talking about it forever. It was supposed to come out in December. It got delayed. EA gave us a free play week last week on Madden 21, and I got really stoked about that. I was like, all right, cool. That's probably a sign. They announced this week that it was going to be coming FIFA 21 March, the middle of March.
FIFA 22 will be out in like September.
I know. Which means now I have to buy both of them in like a 5-month period, which is pretty frustrating. Pretty frustrating. So,
well, at least you'll get it though. It's coming.
Yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I'm angry about it. I'm still gonna buy it. Like, that's what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, of course you will. Just like how every year I'm like, they didn't make any updates. I don't know why I need to buy it. Still buy it. No updates really.
Nope.
Some aesthetic changes. No updates. But I gotta have those. I gotta have those fresh rosters. Your winner?
My winner. I had another one, but it gets erased. You gotta give it to the fans of Cincinnati right now, who've been through the ringer the last 2 years on the soccer front in a way that is really tough to comprehend, and it's caused a little bit of turning on your own as people start to cannibalize their own thoughts and expressions on what they think about things. And that's when you've kind of reached a rock bottom as a fan base. And we all kind of needed this here in Cincinnati. We needed some moments for optimism. And credit to the fans who stuck through it, who showed the faith, and are now hopefully going to get to see a pretty neat collection of players on the field here in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And eventually they'll actually get to go into a stadium and see that.
Maybe.
A new one. A brand new stadium.
Yeah.
That we have season tickets for, that I don't know if we're using at all, but whatever. My winner, listen, I've hyped this show a million times, and I'm just in love with it, and it's the greatest thing ever. And they finally got some big boy recognition Ted Lasso, the show, got nominated for a Golden Globe, and Jason Sudeikis got nominated for a Golden Globe for his role of Ted Lasso. Super cool. I mean, I don't think anyone saw this coming when the show was announced, that like A, it would be watchable, B, like you would love it that much, and C, that it would like get like not just like the soccer dorks like dauber up, but like it's getting Golden Globe nominations. Like it's being recognized by a lot, like by the masses, as like this is a good product. In fact, it was kind of like not really pushed out too much by Apple TV. Like they've definitely put a lot more marketing behind a lot of their other original productions, and this clearly has been their most successful show that they've put out by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've not gotten to watch it yet because I'm not an Apple ecosystem user, although I think I've worked out a mechanism to make that happen. But
just buy a new computer. You get a free year of it.
I'm always looking for an upgrade on the MacBook, that's for sure. Hey, it might go with these mics, right?
There you go.
Yeah. But no, I've heard great things about it, and you know, it's funny, humble beginnings with an NBC promo that they literally turned into a whole show concept, and we love, like, we celebrated. I'm sure we even probably gave a winner award to NBC and Sudeikis at the time for how amazing those Ted Lasso skits were. Like, they were amazing.
Here's the crazy thing about that. That was 5 years ago.
Jeez. Really?
Yeah. That was like 5 years ago.
That's a tough pill to swallow. This on the same day that it dawned on me that this year is the year of my 20th anniversary for high school. So it's two big pills to swallow in one day.
Yeah. I know. I definitely know. Last year, when I turned 34, is when like I did the math in my head that it was like, hey, when you're 34, you're the same distance away from turning 50 as you were from graduating high school.
Yeah. I think a lot about how I turn 40 next year.
Hey, have fun with that.
Yeah. And there's the low point of today's show and the perfect way to wrap things up. As always, thanks for joining us on this delayed edition of the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the explosions that we brought to you in the midst of all this. Know that things will have probably changed a little bit by the time you're hearing this, given that everything is pretty damn fresh. But all that said, if you want to get involved in the show, please hit us up. Jeremy's at Jeremy Lance on Twitter. I'm at Wrong Side of the Pond. That'll do it for tonight, folks. Jeremy and I need to go to bed.
Got it. Bye.